Hey guys, this is Mr. Breen, and in this video I'll be talking about government price and quantity controls. Okay, so let's say that the government decides to set a maximum price for something. In other words, a price above which no one can charge for that good. Now, the market price will tend to be close to the equilibrium price. It'll always be moving toward the equilibrium price, which is here. So the only way for this kind of policy to make sense is if our price ceiling is lower than that. Now that may be confusing to you because after all it's a ceiling. It seems like it should be up high, right? Ceilings are things that are up high. But it's a ceiling for the price, so the price has to hang out underneath it legally. It is illegal for the price to go above this government set maximum price. So what will the effect of this be on this market? Well, remember, demand is caused by things like consumer taste, income, consumer expectations, and so on. And supply is caused by things like input prices or input costs, technology, global supply, tariffs and taxes and subsidies and all that kind of thing. Well, none of that has changed, so actually demand and supply will stay exactly where they are. Now, what will happen is that quantity supplied will be lower than it would otherwise be. If you can't charge very much for your good, you're not going to want to make as much of it. And quantity demanded, though, that's going to be really high. So this is going to cause a shortage in that amount, okay? However much quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied, that will be our shortage. Normally, you would resolve a shortage by raising the price, or the producers would, but it's illegal for them to do so because this is the maximum price set by the government. So we have a permanent shortage. There might be some other consequences too. For this market, maybe a black market will develop, okay, where people illegally sell this at a higher price. Some people are going to be willing to pay that higher price because otherwise you can't get it. There's a shortage. You might also see this good become inefficiently low quality. Inefficiently low quality. Because if you can't charge that much for your good, you might as well not spend so much making it a really high quality good. So you might as well sell maybe more of a lower quality good. And people might still buy it because they can't get a higher quality good than that. The classic example of government price control, or a price ceiling I should say, is rent control. So this is a very tempting good to cap the price of because people need housing. But if you cap the price of rent, well, not as much of it will be offered by suppliers, and people might not build new apartment buildings. Not only that, but landlords might stop taking care of the properties like they used to. Finally, who is it that ends up getting this smaller amount of supply? Well, not necessarily people who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it. Not necessarily the poor people you were trying to help. Usually it's somebody who knows somebody. Or it's somebody who's willing to pay a little bit extra under the table. Okay, well, what if the government decides that some price is too low? So they might set a price floor, and for it to have any effect, they're going to have to set it high because they want the price to be above what it would otherwise be. And if they don't do anything, the price will go down to equilibrium, which is there. Well, the effects of this look pretty clear. Again, neither supply nor demand will change, but quantity supplied will be up there. There's quantity supplied. Quantity demanded will be down there. Now what we have left over from what's being supplied compared to what's being demanded is a surplus. And normally businesses would resolve surpluses by decreasing the price, but it's actually illegal for them to do that. They must charge this high price or somewhere above there because of this government mandated price floor, something below which the price cannot go. So we're going to have a surplus that can't be resolved by a decrease in price, but what else might happen? Well, we might get a black market, and it won't be like the other black market. Here, in this black market, you'll be able to get goods for cheaper than you could get them legally. And also, and this is going to sound funny, but these goods might become inefficiently high quality. Inefficiently high quality. Sure, high quality seems good, but not as many people will be willing to shell out the money for it as would have been willing to get it if the market price had been allowed to be whatever it would be without government intervention. The classic example of a price floor is the minimum wage. The minimum wage. Now, when you have a price ceiling, who you're trying to protect is the consumers, right? Because you want prices to be low and consumers want prices to be low. With a price floor, you're trying to protect suppliers of something. Well, in the labor market, suppliers are workers. So if you're trying to protect workers, you're going to raise the minimum price that it's legal for them to sell their services for. But that's going to cause a surplus of labor. You know what we call a surplus of labor? We call it unemployment. Now, how much employment or unemployment is caused by having a minimum wage? That's hard to say. And a lot of economists have tried to do research on this. But it's probably, at least according to this model, it looks like it's going to cause some. Now, what if the government said, we're just going to limit how much can possibly be produced? So let's say that there were a limit set here. Okay, that's the maximum quantity that can possibly be produced. So actually, we know how much will be produced here. This is how much will be produced. Right here. This is the amount that will be produced. But the real question is, what's the price going to be? Well, the price is going to be however much people would have been willing to pay for that amount of the good. And it's going to be where that intersects the demand curve, right there. Now, true, this line also intersects the supply curve here. And this point represents, sorry, it should be a little higher, but this point represents how much the producers would have had to be able to charge at least in order for it to make sense for them to make this amount of the good. But if the amount of the good that can possibly be produced is going to be restricted to this line anyway, they might as well make this amount, but charge that amount. The classic example of a quantity control is taxi medallions in New York City. Okay, in order to operate a cab, you have to have one of these medallions and a limited number are issued. Okay, so it acts like a quantity control because this is the maximum amount of cab rides that will possibly be able to be offered given the limited number of medallions that there are. Notice that this will cause the market price to be higher than what the equilibrium price would have been. This kind of thing can also cause some of the problems that we've seen before. Things like, well, there's no reason to raise the quality because you can already charge a pretty high price. You can already charge a pretty high price, but you might see a black market arise, especially things like unlicensed cabs.